Lotus Breach, Ross Merriam, Bant Spirits. These players no strangers to the feature match area here. Underworld Breach is a really surprising card out of Theros Beyond Death. Kind of the, I don't even want to call it a fixed Yawgmoth's Will, it's just the new Yawgmoth's Will.
It's different, and it's the same. Now, the weird thing with Yawgmoth's Will is that it wasn't really that broken unless you had mana generators like Dark Ritual. You know, in various older formats, we see Black Lotus being something paired with it quite often. Without those, though, the card Yawgmoth's Will is not very good. You know, it's pretty mana intensive. You need a boatload of mana to make it really work. Underworld Breach doesn't really have that problem.
Merriam on the play, led on Mausoleum Wanderer, turn 2 Shocks in a Hollowed Fountain for a Rattle Chain. It's going to come across for 3 points. That was 18 to 17, should be life totals. Gaieski on turn 2 is going to attempt a Sylvan Scrying. The Wanderer is going to eat that.
And Gaieski actually has Lotus and Thespian Stage. That Sylvan Scrying might have been a little bit of a bait. Now, with that said, he might not have anything else to cast, but it was not a relevantly cast Magic card in this game.
Lotus Field came down as land number 3. Merriam flashes in that stinky Brazen Borrower, but it does get to attack, 4 points, knocking Gaieski to 12.
Imagine if it were a Rattle Chains or a Selfless Spirit. It would be the same. It would be basically the same.
Very, very similar.
It would have 3 power attacking now instead of 3 power. It'd have 3 power.
Thespian Stage, go for Gaieski. You see Ross once again attack for 4. Gaieski to 8. Copies of Lotus Field, and now let's see what he can do as far as comboing off. He will start with Pour Through the Pages. That resolves.
Yeah, Pour Over the Pages is one of the more powerful cards in this version of the deck. Simply put, if you copy a Lotus Field with Thespian Stage, you get to do some really bonker stuff. Because you get to untap 2 lands. Now, that can be 2 Lotus Fields, but it's much harder to get 2 Lotus Fields on the battlefield than 1 Lotus Field and a Thespian Stage to copy it.
And it's all the same once you get there, though. He untaps these 6 mana producing lands, has 1 red floating, as it is a 5 mana spell. We see him go for a second Pour Over the Pages. The first one's good, why not this one?
Yeah. Now, this deck really reminds me, I don't even know if you've played, when did you start playing Magic?
Competitively or just Magic?
Just Magic.
Legions, 2003.
Okay. Okay, so you actually played a little bit around the time where Mirrodin was legal in Standard, and then eventually it was like legal in Extended. Did you ever play any PTQs around that time, or was that before you started?
Yes, Extended, like, Affinity was a thing. When I first started playing Extended PTQs, it was like the Dredge era.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say this deck really reminds me of the old Twiddle Lotus, Gilded Lotus deck. Well, that's not good.
Huge miss for Ross Merriam. There's the Underworld Breach for Gaieski. Collected Company looks for a Spell Queller. It finds a Brazen Borrower. Yeah,
I really need to hit a Spell Queller there. If he didn't, the game is probably over. Once Underworld Breach is active and you have some amount of cards in the graveyard, it's really hard to lose. Especially Pour Over the Pages is just such a powerful card. Here, he basically has 2 free roll Pour Over the Pages based on his graveyard just being reasonably stocked already.
Pour Over the Pages escapes there. You see each non-land card in your graveyard gains escape, and that's just all of them, no matter when they enter the graveyard. Your spells just go to the graveyard on resolution, and everything in your graveyard just plays the entire turn here.
Right.
That is the power level of this card.
Now, Gaieski has a... okay, this is it. He found Hidden Strings, but he already had a Fae of Wishes in hand. This is going to generate enough mana where he can Fae of Wishes and go get basically anything out of the sideboard. You know, he could get Omniscience if he wants to still cast it, I believe. So.
And I believe the starting point for them is usually Tome Scour.
If they have the rest of it rolled up, yeah. Tome Scour plus Hidden Strings is mill my whole deck. And that's good enough. And that's why there is 1 Tome Scour on the sideboard. It looks weird, but with Underworld Breach, Lotus Field, Hidden Strings, you get to mill your whole deck and eventually just cast Oracle Thassa or any other win con, really.
Yeah, and it's just a numbers game at that point. You saw Gaieski show the Tome Scour. It mills you for 5. Underworld Breach only requires 3 cards at a time.
Right.
You have enough to keep escaping your cards, ultimately build up to your win condition.
Yeah, and you eventually do run out of cards in your deck, but that doesn't matter anymore. Once you have effectively Tome Scoured your entire deck, you basically have drawn every card in your deck because the Underworld Connection gives them all escape.
Right, players going to sideboards after a quick one there. So for Ethan Gaieski, we saw him cast that Granted, that Fae of Wishes. So a lot of this is a package for that. We'll take a look at the sideboard, see if he wants anything. He has 2 Natural States, 2 Mystical Disputes, Return to Nature, an Hour of Devastation, an Unravel the Ether, an Ugin, an Anger of the Gods, an Alpine Moon, a Thought Distortion, another Underworld Breach, a Tome Scour, a Niv Mizzet, and a Jace Wielder of Mysteries.
So this sideboard, again, as you said, is very Fae of Wishes heavy. I would say the only card I'd really want to bring in here is Mystical Disputes. Maybe you can hedge a little bit and have some cards that are just pretty tough for fairies to beat on their own, so that if you play a longer game, you just have more natural threats. Something like Niv Mizzet Peyrune, for example, is quite tough for them to beat. It's also pretty slow. So.
All right, we'll see what Ross Merriam can do about it. You saw him have a big miss on that Collected Company against the Underworld Breach, so ideally looking for more answers to that. He has 4 Mystical Dispute, 2 Deputy of Detention, 2 Disdainful Stroke, 2 Rest in Peace, 2 Seal Away, a Settled Wreckage, a Dramoka's Command, and a Damping Sphere.
I think Mystical Dispute's the only slam dunk. The deck is majority blue, but being able to counter something like Pour Over the Pages for 1 mana is just phenomenal. It's really hard to stress. Now, with that said, the games can go long enough where the Mystical Dispute actually loses some amount of value, though, because the card Lotus Field generates some absolutely outrageous amount of mana. So Ross is going to need to think about when to use those particularly, but he will be putting them to pretty good use, I believe. Disdainful Stroke maybe comes into. Rest in Peace seems like it's okay. Shuts off the Underworld Breach part, but personally, I have won many games with the Lotus Breach deck without using my graveyard at all, so it's kind of like cutting off half of their win conditions, but that's not even that big of a deal.
It's just too obvious, right? Everybody knows about Rest in Peace, Leyline of the Void. Nobody constructs their deck to just fold to these cards.
Right, and I mean, if you look at his deck, if you just look at Ethan Gaieski's deck on Cardboard Live, you'll see that the only real card that he uses from the graveyard is going to be Underworld Breach. Everything else is just cycling, mana generation, and he can eventually just win the game anyway. Like, this deck existed before Underworld Breach, and it was just fine, and it had almost all the same tools.
Right.
The Underworld Breach just gives you that auto-win button for 2 mana, and when you're kind of struggling against discard and counter spells and things like that. But in this particular build, yeah, sure, it's going to be okay, but it's not going to be that big of a deal.
Ross Merriam, you see him playing here. You can also catch him Tuesdays and Thursdays on Versus Live over on our Twitch page, twitch.tv/StarCityGames, and StarCityGames.com. We send it over there as well. It's 1 p.m. Eastern Time, battling Corey Baumeister. You saw him. He's currently in first place on our seasonal standings.
He's also in first place on Versus Live.
Got the marbles?
I hope so. I actually didn't. Did Rob, was there a Versus on Thursday, do you know? Okay.
You just got to say it, man.
Corey won.
Yeah.
Corey won.
That's what I'm hearing.
Corey's got the marbles.
Look at does that man look like he does not have the marbles? No.
I don't know. Ross looks like he's sneaking them. He's grabbing them.
Ross is plotting there, trying to get those marbles back. That's what he's thinking about right now.
He's like, man, I got to get the marbles from Corey, man.
Every time Ross takes a prolonged time shuffling his deck, he's just thinking about how can I get those marbles back.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. It's Ross here again. All right, that's enough.
Take a drink of water. Hydration is fundamental. Good moves there by Ross.
If you haven't seen that video, just go to YouTube and search Ross Merriam, Sound of Silence. That's it. It's the best. You just get to watch him get dumpstered for like 3 minutes straight.
We have results going in both directions on the other tables. Brian Rogers up a game over Aaron Barich, and Becky Adlman up a game over Evan Petre, even.
Well, I'm sure you just had the, you didn't want to say Ethan Gaieski, right? And you were just there right next to each other.
No, my problem is I put my eyes over words. I don't read.
Yvonne Petre.
I'm focused more on talking than reading, and my brain's in the wrong mode.
Kind of like when you're streaming and you're trying to play Magic and you're just like, you tap the wrong land once and the chat makes fun of you for an hour.
Oh, yeah. I just block people immediately. It's the best.
You know, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I need to start doing that.
I got a feature on my channel. For 10,000 channel points, I will time you out for 10 minutes. That's a perk.
For on mine, for 10,000 points, you get to turn me into a dummy. It's not that hard.
What does that mean?
It's the ventriloquist.
Oh, okay.
I just say whatever you want me to say. But I have the option of veto, so it can't be that bad.
All right.
But people have used it to make me say things like the Darth Plagueis.
It's not a story the Jedi would tell you.
Yeah, exactly. So you get it.
That's a nice one.
It's a nice one. What else did I do? I once had to do the frickin' All-Star song, I think.
Smash Mouth?
Yeah,
All-Star.
by Smash Mouth. Yeah. That was nice. And I sing. If it's a song and they want me to sing the song, I just turn it on and start singing it.
Well, yeah, you got it.
Yeah. Well, I don't got it. It's my channel. Do whatever I want.
Sorry.
You should, is what you meant.
One in that position, delivering the best possible product, would be inclined to.
All right, well, Ross is on 5, but he's looking for a very particular type of interaction here as well as some amount of pressure. Those first 2 hands were pretty easy toss backs, and his deck doesn't really need a lot of raw resources to win, let alone win in this matchup.
And he'll start on Island Mausoleum Wanderer. Just kind of needs a little bit of disruption and a pretty good clock.
Right, and the Mausoleum Wanderer is the best start in the deck. Especially this start, this is the dream start. But now after turn 2, he gets to effectively hold up mana for the rest of the game for all of his flash threats if he so chooses, while having the Mausoleum Wanderer for that little bit of protection in the weird spots. Now last game we saw him actually counter a Sylvan Scrying, and he just got bit because of it. What do you think? Do you think he counters it again?
I mean, on 5 cards, I think he's much less likely to. But no shot at that. This is just a Fey of Wishes on blocking duty for Gaieski.
Well, if he has another Lord here, he can pump it up through attacks. 1 Flash Spirit here is not going to be enough to actually kill the Fey of Wishes either. So Gaieski here is going to be able to prevent quite a bit of damage by just casting this 2-mana 1/4 flyer. You got to remember, these adventure creatures can just be cast for the front side. A Fey of Wishes is a 1/4 flying blocker. It's actually just fine, and people do not cast it enough in this deck.
In particular, you got to be a little adaptable, right?
Yep.
I don't know if Gaieski does that against a 7-card hand, but it makes a lot of sense against the 5 here.
Sure. No, that's a good point.
Merriam has the 3rd land. He has Bant Colors online with that Botanical Sanctum, but was only able to connect for 1 with that Fey of Wishes blocking the Wanderer. We'll see what Gaieski can muster on his turn 3. Botanical Sanctum of his own, and just cast Vizier of Tumbling Sands.
Yeah, this one can generate a bit of mana. When it's on the table, you get that effect every single turn if you want it.
Mystical Dispute for Merriam. Not interested in playing against that 1/3. Back Merriam's way. Very fast block from Gaieski as the spirits come across.
Didn't have it last turn. Ain't going to have it this turn, I bet.
And Merriam was going to shock to 16 for Breeding Pool. Looks suspiciously like a Collected Company.
It's not Collected Company. And Gaieski is going to figure that out pretty quick. There's no way Ross would not shock before attacking because it would probably change the block on the Fey of Wishes. Like, personally, if he had Collected Company, I would have loved to have seen him play that pre-combat, and after the block, even just cast the Collected Company to try to get the Mausoleum Wanderer big enough to kill the Fey of Wishes. You got to get your clock down. He doesn't have Lotus Field active, and that makes it a lot harder for him to actually combo.
Yeah, very fair point. Head back over to Gaieski. Do see an Underworld Breach in hand, but not at the ready with a Lotus Field just yet. Like you said, graveyard pretty empty as well.
He's got a couple of stinkers in there, too. I believe he's got, like, Arboreal Grazer just hanging out. Maybe no lands to play. We'll see. It's hard to tell when you just get glimpses because a lot of these cards don't really do a whole lot on their own. They really need other stuff to make them good.
Here's an attempt at Sylvan Scrying. Wanderer could counter this one. Gaieski just has 1 mana up. The Supreme Phantom puts it to a 2. It's going to resolve. Gaieski finds Lotus Field. Lotus Field will sacrifice the 2 lands that were used to cast the Scrying. And Gaieski will pass. And yeah, just gonna untap the creatures is Merriam.
Yep, and Gaieski looks like he has a Mystical Dispute in hand as well, so I have to imagine that he is heavily advantaged in this current spot.
I like advantaged.
Well, I was halfway between advantage and advantageous, talking about his advantageous position. And my stupid brain could not make the decision fast enough to pick lane. Something that you learn when you go to TV school. I don't know if you knew this. TV school, they teach you how to talk. I know talkie very good.
So you did not go to TV school.
Oh.
I watched a lot of TV on my sick days when I was in school.
Yeah.
It's probably a different thing.
I watch a lot of TV at school.
Nice.
Yeah.
Here's an Arboreal Grazer for Gaieski, and Merriam's flashing in a Spell Queller. His attack is completely blunted if this Grazer's on the battlefield. That Queller is going to get tagged by this Mystical Dispute, though.
Yeah, and here you're starting to see just how weak stuff like Dispute or even the Mausoleum Wonder is going to be as the game goes along. The ability just doesn't matter as much.
Back over to Ross Merriam, drawing up to a second card in hand.
Yeah, but doesn't have a way to punch through, so he's just going to pass the turn. Gaieski here in the driver's seat. Ross, no pressure. So he's got a bunch of time.
Pour over the pages. Just tapping out for that one is Gaieski. You can wander this if you want, is the messaging here.
Right.
Disdainful Stroke. Cast by Ross Merriam.
I like that tag. It's a good tag. Keeping the Mausoleum Wonder also just so you have some pressure too. Makes sense. Though, this might be a spot, depending on what the other card in Ross's hand is, it might have been time to just give up the Mausoleum Wonder now and save the stroke for a different 4-mana spell like Fae of Wishes Granted or a second Pour Over the Pages, because now there's a good chance that the Mausoleum Wonder is not going to counter anything for the rest of the game.
Another draw and a pass for Merriam. Back over to Gaieski. At least one Underworld Breach in hand.
Yeah, I believe he's got 2, and I believe that other card might be another Pour Over the Pages. Hard to tell, though. Well, he might be going for here. I don't know if he has the ability to full combo, but he might be able to half combo and gain some value out of this first Underworld Breach. It's something you don't see a ton in these decks because most decks in the format don't give you the time to get like a value breach.
Breach is getting tagged by a Spell Queller. I'm not positive about it, but I believe the blue card in hand is Hidden Strings.
It is. I just saw it. Good call.
So the Queller eats the Underworld Breach, and Gaieski's going to pass.
Nice. We're going to block here in such a way where prevent the most damage, still only taking 1 from the Supreme Phantom. At some point, that block might blow him out if Ross is able to draw Collect the Company, but hasn't done so yet.
Finally, Merriam connecting for damage again. The Phantom goes on block. Gaieski to 13. Merriam plays land number 5 in Glacial Fortress, and we head back to Gaieski. I believe Arboreal Grazer picked up. That one not looking too good. But what might look very good is his second attempt at an Underworld Breach.
Yeah, and with Hidden Strings in hand, he's able to generate quite a bit of mana thanks to the Lotus Field and the Underworld Breach is letting him cast over and over again. And that'll allow him to eventually maybe return the Fae of Wishes to Granted for Tome Scour, and that would be lethal. Or it just gives him the ability to Pour Over the Pages here for -1 mana.
And there is Hidden Strings. Back to all the lands on tap. No mana in pool. Get to untap 2 permanents with that one. And you want it in your graveyard because of Underworld Breach. Sometimes you do see this spell ciphered.
I think Gaieski maybe made a mistake here by playing the Breach.
You think he doesn't have enough?
I don't know. He's burning a lot of cards in his graveyard to generate some extra mana, but he doesn't have the cards in hand to discard the Fae of Wishes. You can't do that with only 1 card in hand, right?
Yeah, Fae of Wishes takes 2 cards to discard.
So I thought it's additional cost. So it looks like he's going to make some mana with the first, and then he's going to Pour Over the Pages with the second. And that's going to give him a fresh look at 3 and discard 1. And that'll give enough mana to return the Fae of Wishes and cast Granted. I don't know if that gives him enough juice to actually go off, though. Wow, he found Vizier. Holy crap.
So he taps Lotus Field.
That's it. That's enough. He just has enough.
Draw a card, untap the field,
and he
picks up Fae of Wishes.
Okay.
That makes it easy. It makes a little bit of sense with Gaieski in kind of a low-resource position there to just shove and hope for the best.
Yeah. What's the worst can happen?
Right.
Draw 3 cards and discard 1?
Yeah, that's fine.
Worst-case scenario?
Update from our standard table. Becky Adlman, quick 2-0 win. Good news for Merriam because he is in trouble.
All right, so now we are going to have Ethan Gaieski with 4 mana resolving. He doesn't have enough. Okay, I thought he had it rolled up, but I guess the Mausoleum Wanderer kind of throws him off slightly. So he can't just go get Tome Scour. Because if you cast Tome Scour first, mills 5, then cast Hidden Strings. Oh, he exiled the Hidden Strings with a Pour Over the Pages. Okay.
Finds Ugin the Spirit Dragon.
Interesting. Well, he's not casting that this turn, but it might be enough to win the game next turn.
Land for turn is Thespian Stage. That gets all the way to Ugin for next turn, copying the field. Cast Arboreal Grazer, just another blocker online. Puts the Breach in the bin.
Yeah, not a whole lot he could do there. He got basically a Pour Over the Pages out the deal, but it didn't really gain him all that much. But it was a valiant attempt. It was pretty hard for him with the resources he had to combo through the Mausoleum Wanderer. Simply put, he didn't have the Thespian Stage copying the Lotus Field already, so the mana generation from the untaps is not nearly as potent.
And there's a lot to like about this Ugin, because there's no pressure for Gaieski to actually minus the Ugin. He can just plus on the spirits, just like kill the Supreme Phantom, take his next turn, and then if he feels he's ready to go, he can kill the Spell Queller the following turn, get that Breach back, and actually just combo.
Right.
Merriam just draws and passes, can't attack into all this Grazer business. Gaieski going to do the same, plays a Thespian Stage.
I don't really know what he's playing around. Maybe just another counterspell like another Disdainful Stroke, but I don't know. Also, I think I would just... Maybe he's playing around multiple Mystical Disputes, just hard cast, because he wanted to get enough mana to cast it. So he couldn't pay for 1 Mystical Dispute there. So that actually makes a lot of sense now. Okay.
So that Thespian Stage and the first one both copying the field. He has 4 mana left over, casting this Ugin. And we'll see where it goes.
Well, if he minuses 3, gets the Spell Queller, he actually gets the Underworld Breach now. And that maybe lets him combo this turn. But maybe not.
Yeah, he only has 4 mana left over. Yeah, so the Breach comes back. See what he wants to do with that.
Well, he doesn't have enough mana to do much, so he looks like he's just going to hard cast Vizier of Remedies.
Tumbling Sands.
Oh, excuse me. The other Vizier that sees some amount of constructed play. Okie dokie.
Rattle Change and Step from Merriam, as well as Empyrean Eel.
Now, I really like Gaieski's spot like 3 turns ago. This development, it's been something. I mean, he's still not in trouble, but he just has nothing except the Ugin. So if Ross figures out a way to get the Ugin dead, might actually have a real game here. I say real game, it's like turn 9. It just feels like Ross has been losing the whole time because he's been so low on overall resources, you know.
And that is the thing about the Lotus Breach deck, right? It's very busted if all you're doing is casting creatures that attack and block.
Right.
But once you start presenting counter spells, the deck can struggle a little bit.
Now here's the part that's really hard for aggro decks to beat. The minus is already backbreaking, but then being able to plus every turn after that, if you don't kill immediately, just a plus to kill a creature is extremely powerful.
Yeah, you can 1 to 2 off after a hit off of the Eagle, but now it's back up to 4 and the Eagle's down. That Rattle Chain suddenly looking really weak against this Fae of Wishes.
Yeah, the Fae of Wishes is currently able to be played, though, or bounced, rather, and then granted cast, but it looks like Gaieski here just playing it super safe, and it paid off. Holy jeez.
Yeah, he played a Temple instead of just holding 2 cards in hand, scryed top, and end step, Merriam flashes in Spell Queller.
If he had returned it and cast granted, which is that's like the no-brainer play or whatever, would have just got absolutely dumpstered by that Spell Queller. Would have countered granted, allowed Ross to attack and kill the Ugin, the whole game changes. That no bounce from the Fae of Wishes is very smart here from Gaieski.
Yeah, nice discipline there. You see the Spirits attack the Ugin. Fae of Wishes eats the Rattle Chain. Spell Queller puts Ugin to 2. Miriam's just going to play this Hollow Fountain tap now. Writing's on the wall.
Yeah, flash creatures are okay against Ugin's abilities because it is a sorcery speed planeswalker or whatever, but it's just too much.
Fae of Wishes getting frisky now. Merriam to 15. Draws and casts a Damping Sphere. That's a yikes from me.
Well,
there was a time.
There is still time.
You think that's going to race the Ugin?
It's not racing. It is a card that allows Ross to draw Brazen Borrower, to bounce the Ugin, and then it can't be recast this turn, maybe.
Sure, the Lotus Fields aren't tapping for 3 anymore is the point you're getting
They're
at?
only tapping for 1, so and he technically only has 7 mana in play. But he does have the 8th in hand, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not really anything, but it's like kind of something.
It borders on, it's something adjacent.
All right, well, we're going to have a return Fae of Wishes here. And then we're going to have Granted be cast, since Ross is empty-handed.
There is Granted. Little conversation there. So Gaieski activated Fae of Wishes and then overtapped for Granted because of Damping Sphere, but it wasn't Dispel, so this actually just still costs 4. He won't be able to cast anything he wishes for, unless, of course, it costs 0, but that's not happening.
Mm-hmm. I love the fair nature on Fae of Wishes, like the ability to continually bounce it, cast a wish, play it, return it, get a wish, play it like over and over again. That part to me is really cool. The big toolbox sideboards, not as much, but still like pretty cool, I guess.
It's a card that I think that they got the numbers really right on.
Yeah, that's fair.
This card could be really messed up if it was a little more pushed in any direction.
I feel like if this card was printed, if Fae of Wishes was printed in like 2005, it would cost you like half your life to cast Granted. In fact, they made a card in sometime around that time period called Death Wish.
Did cost half your life?
Yeah. I believe it only cost 3, though. But
the other wishes were probably a little better than Fae Wishes, though. Cunning Wish was, like, pretty powerful.
That's because it was instant.
Yeah.
It was very good.
Well, there's Death Wish.
Oh, yeah.
Granted found an answer to Damping Sphere. Damping Sphere is taken down. Back on Gaieski's turn. Fae Wishes shows up once again, and here's another Granted. Merriam will Disdainful Stroke that, but he's facing down an Ugin on 8, and his life total is also that same number.
Well, either he drew a land and was about to play it, or is a balk and he has Collect Company. Either way, pretty sure he's dead.
Yeah, drew and passed. Ugin is going to put Merriam to 5. Arboreal Grazer and a pass for Gaieski. A draw and a concession from Merriam.
That'll do. Now, even though Becky Adlman did take her match 2-0, we have Gaieski on the left taking his 2-0, so we will get a final match here between Brian Rogers and Aaron Barich, the Helad Company deck that started to crop up recently with all the Infinite Life stuff, and the Golgari Yawgmoth deck that Barich has really showcased over the last month and change.
They are underway here. Rogers won the first game. We see Barich set up with a Geralt's Messenger. Not much else. A couple mana creatures, a Birds of Paradise and a Dryad Arbor. Facing down an active Devoted Druid, it would seem, and a Rager Captain. Not sure what that got. Rogers at 12, Barich at 18. A Young Wolf for Barich. That one not adding a lot of substance at this juncture. It looks like Messenger actually just connected, so Rogers at 9. Blood Artist joins the party as well. Tapped Blooming Marsh and a pass for Barich. End step, Rogers cracks Horizon Canopy. And we'll see if he can assemble a combo with this Devoted Druid.
Yeah, this is the real scary turn if you're Barich. The Devoted Druid untapping. If he has Vizier, he has infinite mana. And then, well, then he has the World's Fair.
Well, so it looks like he had a crack at it last turn, but he has 2 looks with that Canopy.
Sure.
So the hope is that it's all just junk in the hand. But it's a pretty stocked grip for Rogers. Looks like 6 cards.
I'm not a huge fan of junk in the hand. I like to keep mine in the trunk.
You had to say that.
I had to.
There was no way to not say that.
Impossible. It was impossible.
Looks like there's a walking ballista among the holdings, but I imagine we'd see a lot quicker action if there was a Vizier.
Oh, for sure. The game would be over. I think he's just considering whether or not he should play a 2-2 Ballista, which he's going to do. That'll allow him to kill the Blood Artist, maybe even go ahead and cash in and kill Birds of Paradise too. But the Blood Artist is the scary one because that allows Aaron to deal just an outrageous amount of damage with a sack outlet coming down soon.
Also, just life totals where they at just makes attacking really good.
That's true too. Yeah.
Ballista on 2 is the play. It's going to take care of that Blood Artist, like you said.
Woof.
Blood Artist does check itself, so Rogers at 8 to Barich's 20.
Rogers has a Trixie Veil Summer he can use with untapping Devoted Druid. Might be kind of cool. Curious how that'll play out.
Yeah, we'll see. This board state makes it seem like that might be a pretty small effect.
Oh, yeah, probably.
See Barich untap and attack with Geralt's Messenger.
Look, I'm not saying I would have brought it in. I'm just saying it's kind of cool with the Devoted Druid. It's very hidden.
That is sneaky. I will say that anytime I face a Devoted Druid, I kill it right away. So seeing an active Druid and it not winning the game is discouraging for my money.
Same, because when I don't kill it, I always die.
Right, exactly. Looks like the Messenger does connect Rogers to 5, and here is Wall of Roots on the topic of discouraging. That one's not adding much to Barich's side of the battlefield. See if Rogers can assemble a combo on this turn.
Looks like he's got a bunch of half combos, has like a Kitchen Finks hanging out. A bunch of lands, though. I think that's mostly the problem. Veil Summer, Kitchen Finks, lands in hand, looks like. Another Devoted Druid.
Kitchen Finks. That one will show up. Rogers to 7.
Did you play any during Kamigawa?
Yeah, I love Kamigawa.
So the art on this Devoted Druid is not one that I'm super familiar with, but I know it. But it looks a lot like a 3-mana green legend. It's like a 2-1 Vigilance, and I cannot recall the name to save my life.
It's a 2-1 green. There's like a green samurai.
Yeah, that's the one. But it kind of looks like the picture from here, like kind of zoomed out, kind of looks like the Devoted Druid is wearing like the samurai helmet a little bit. But that picture is just calling to me in my brain right now, and I cannot for the life of me figure out what the name of the creature is. It's not. Let's see. It's not Yamabushi.
I think it starts with an I. I could be mistaken.
Maybe.
Anyway, I don't see the resemblance.
Okay. Well, you know what, buddy? Well, now we get to untap here on the Rogers side of things with a Walking Ballista and a bunch of mana. That's always good for the Ballista player.
Yeah, there was no attack with the Messenger this time. Rogers with some more looks.
Looks like he found another Ranger Captain of Eos.
Yeah, there is a Ranger Captain.
See what you got to go get. Viscerous here with the Kitchen Finks makes some amount of sense, but it's not quite an infinite combo just yet. Again, a lot of half combos here. Devoted Druid, no Vizier with the Ballista. We got Kitchen Finks, Viscerous here. No way to put the counter back on it.
Yeah, the nice thing about the Seer is it helps you find the rest of the combo.
That's true, but you have to like I don't know. You have to like sacrifice a lot of stuff.
Yeah?
Yes!
Yeah.
Yes, that's
There
the
it is.
one!
I knew it was an I.
See? Maybe not so much.
I still don't see the resemblance, but I knew the card you were talking about because
Okay.
you described it as a 3-mana green legend from Kamigawa.
That's a 2-1, something like Vigilance or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And then just a nonsense ability, like some other creature gets regenerated or
Some
whatever.
card that can play in a Samurai deck but never realistically would. I mean,
Yeah.
that was actually the theme of Samurai, is
might
none
be
of
a
them were
snake
good.
Samurai. Might be a snake samurai. You don't know. Could be. That snake could have a sword. You don't know.
Viscera Seer shows up to the party. You see Barich commit another Geralf's Messenger.
Now, Roger's life total is in a bit of jeopardy, and if Barich is able to draw something like Yawgmoth, can maybe close the gap super fast. However, in the current state of things, Roger's at a what I would call healthy 6.
It's not a precarious 6, it's a healthy 6.
Yeah. Still has at least a 6 life to work with. All right, well, looks like we're going to...
Sack and a quick scry to the top.
Oh, no.
That's got to be a combo.
Yeah.
What else could it possibly be? Maybe some kind of tutory thing. Something that likely finds a combo or automatically finds a combo.
Yeah, and with the... Oh, it might be just B Collect Company, but it's
Finale Devastation, rather.
Yeah, and he does sack the Ranger Captain of Vios first, so Barich cannot respond with a non-creature spell. And I don't think that she has any flash creatures in hand. That's going to do it.
Yeah, that is Vizira Remedies. There's the combo. Kind of a drawn-out affair where neither player quite had a combo.